Welcome to the Take Back Your Home podcast, where you'll get the tools and inspiration to reclaim your identity and sanity at home. I'm Lee Waters.
And I'm Rebecca.
Thank you for joining me.
Rebecca Wright, I guess I could say.
You are. She's Rebecca Wright, because she's always right. And she's our guest for this season. You'll see her on at least half the episodes. So I'm a professional interior designer here in the greater Richmond area. I went to school for interior design. And Rebecca, besides being my friend, anything else you want to add about who you are? Why are you here? What are you doing?
I just love my home. And I want to love the home that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
I just need help.
And so she's taking my course called Take Back Your Home and sharing her experience about it on this podcast. So now that we have those intros out of the way, last episode 1, I shared a little bit about my journey in creating a course called Take Back Your Home. And this podcast is a way of distilling the information in that course to reclaim our identities and sanities at home.
To talk through the real world application.
Yeah.
Actually taking that course and making it work.
Yes, that's why Rebecca's here. She is taking the course. She is in progress, or in process, both, I guess. And she is sharing her reactions to it. Because I created it, but I also do this every day. So she's making sure that it's easy and like doable. So she's sharing. So last week we shared the first module called Module 0, as in like the origin of all. So I don't know if you want to share. Actually, let's have you share. Like, what did you accomplish and learn in Module 0 about?
So I learned that the room that I had set up was non-functional. It really was just a storage room for furniture. And I needed it to be functional, I needed it to be useful, and I needed it to be beautiful.
And cozy, you said.
And cozy.
Yeah, always really important to you.
I'm like a mama bird that is always putting feathers in her nest.
Go listen to episode 1, because you had some really, you had some good examples of how you knew that it had to be cozy and layered from your life experience. So that was great. Okay, so I know you recently moved. You're renting your home. You want it to feel like you could be there forever.
Right.
Even though, you've rented your whole marriage, you were saying. Yeah. And so it's always been important to you. And I obviously respect that as an interior designer because I know just how important our environments can be. So I asked you to take the course and reflect on it on this podcast before you moved.
Right.
And then you kind of unexpectedly moved. So I'm sure this timing has been intense.
No, it's been very good because.
So a good intense.
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't really into the previous rental I was in. I wasn't really into it. I didn't love the space, and this place we've moved into. Yeah. I love the space. Yeah. And I love how I can see the lake from my living room. I love that. I love this one room that I'm focusing on right now. I'm so excited to get. Out of the 2 modules, this was my favorite module that I've done so
far. There's more to come.
Because I love the layout. I'm so excited.
Okay.
It's silly, but I'm excited about.
Well, I sat in it after you figured out what you needed to do. So that's what Module 1 is. That's the second module. It's called, we go from Module 0, where we determine these feelings that we need in the space, how we want to feel in the space. And then Module 1 is called Layout. And I mean, did you have a reaction to that word, like layout? Did you think, what is she?
I don't measure, so.
Okay. Anti-measure.
And a little bit. I'm getting better at it.
Measuring tape later.
You gave me a measuring tape, and I've actually used it a lot.
Good.
A lot.
Oh, good.
So I did. My reaction to layout, that's what I'm answering.
Yeah.
So that was. I've always felt like I could visualize something and just lay it out. But I really couldn't with this room because I had a lot of furniture that I wanted to all work in there. Yeah. I'm not in a place where I'm buying new stuff because I like what I have.
Right.
But I needed to not have my husband necessarily have to move it 50 times.
Right.
I wanted to get it in place get it in the right place.
Let it stay there.
Almost the first time.
Yeah.
And we did 2 times, but
no, that's...
Yeah, it's the moving, like that 10-foot
When the first time you did it, you hadn't done the layout module, right?
No, I hadn't.
And so you were like, we have to put the furniture somewhere.
Right.
And so you did that. So I wouldn't even say you you did do it technically
was just
twice.
down, yeah.
Husband would swear that he did it twice.
Yeah.
But as far as the course is concerned, you really were able to put the plan in place, move the pieces there, and
I'm not moving.
And they're done.
Yeah, this is
good.
Yeah, I'm so excited about the layout of this space.
When I sat there, it feels good.
Yeah,
it feels good because we're neighbors, we're friends, and I went over to Rebecca's house, and I was like, "Yeah, you nailed your layout. Like it's great. It's got all the functionality that you need." And I think that's something that people don't understand about design is we are visual beings. Even if we're auditory learners, like unless you have vision issues where you can't see, it's one of our senses. We're going to utilize it, and we are very visual. I'd say vision and touch are like probably the senses that we use the most, And so people start with the visual and they think, this is how I want the room to look. And so they jump into, I like this color, so I'm going to paint the walls. And I like this sofa line, and so I'm going to buy this sofa. And it's not right. Like it's not the right order. Sometimes you get blessed with like a layout that is just so proportionally great that you can put, like maybe one year you're like, I'll switch out the sofa and get a sectional and just take that chair out, and you luck out. But for the most part, 99.9% of the time, you need to measure these things. Absolutely. And that's what I do as a professional. And that's what this course is teaching the same process that I use with clients to course participants, because I would never buy a $12,000 sectional for a client without knowing 110% sure it's going to fit, right? And so maybe you're not in the market for a $12,000 sectional, but it doesn't matter what your budget is. It's your hard-earned money, and it's your, whoever's moving the furniture, it's their back, and they don't want to do it 50 times. And you want to get it right.
You do. And you talk about measuring. It's a matter of inches on whether or not something's going to work in your room. Yeah. Like, I've already referenced my coffee table, my fabulous coffee table, but I felt like it was way too big for the room. But when we changed the color to a lighter color, and it really did.
The visual presence.
Right, because it blended into this huge couch, and so it felt like a lot bigger piece of furniture. But when the measurements were done, it felt right.
Yeah.
And when I was going through your module, the first module, I was taking notes in the little book. I was taking notes on what I was going to do, and I was really kind of intent on flipping my couch the other direction.
So you're saying before the layout module?
No, while I was doing the layout module.
Oh, yes. Okay. You were kind of predicting this is what's going to,
I was taking notes like measure the couch. You're going to maybe want to flip it. Measure the coffee table. So I took all these notes, and then at the end of the module, I went in and I measured my stuff, and I realized that I actually couldn't have flipped my couch. You gave some really good guidelines, and I highlighted them in there about measurements of how far your sofa needs to be from your coffee table. So that, to me, I'm very visual about. Yeah. But it really is important you really need to be able to make that clearance. Yeah. So walking clearance. Also, how easy is it to lean out and put your coffee mug down or a book down or your cell phone down? Like, where is the surface so that I can clear it with my legs, but also be able to reach it with my arm? How far do I want to sit down? And people are like, oh, great, she's losing me. There's math and interior design. But it's not hard math. Yeah. It's subtraction, addition, and you can pick inches or feet. I like inches because it's one number versus like a foot plus inches, because you do not skip the inches. If you tell me, well, my room's 12 feet and I find out it's 12 foot 8 inches, it's a big difference. That 8 inches could be all we need. I mean, truly. And it sounds silly, but if you're listening to this, you probably are taking notes. I hope you're taking notes, because it's not silly. It will save you when you buy that $3,000, $6,000 sofa, or even haul it off Facebook Marketplace. The frustration and your husband or your partner's like, we're not doing this again. This better fit. And you're like, I've been there. I'm a little bit on a furniture. And sometimes it's the wife, not to like hate on. I'm a little bit on the furniture ban right now. No more moving furniture for a while. So I'm settling into this room, and as I move through the modules, the heavy stuff is done.
I love it.
Yeah, and it was done on paper.
Yes, done on paper and computer without having to use up time. There's all sorts of resources. We have financial resources, time resources, back and muscle resources, right? And just like your overall desire starts to wane after a while. Even if you love it, you're like, I can't keep figuring out the logistics of I'm picking up this thing off Facebook, and then I got to call Johnny who's going to lend us the truck, and then it's all the things, and I got to let it sit on the side porch for a day while it airs out, and whatever the thing is, right? So you got to respect your resources, and the more efficient we can be with the not as fun things like the math, the more energy and time and resources we have for the more fun stuff, I think, like the visual.
I actually thought that I had a lot of furniture in my room, but when I did the layout, I could see that if I deleted one chair, my husband did have to move that chair. If I moved that one chair, I got to add in a new piece of furniture that I had never purchased before, and I was really excited to have it. And then I have more places to display some of my pretty things.
Yes, because you have a lot of pretty things.
Yeah, so I took that opportunity when we did that layout to make sure that piece of furniture worked there before I bought it.
Yes.
And then I had the measurements. I do a lot of real just buying things on impulse.
Yes.
And then I have to figure out where they go.
You're like, this is a great price, the quality, I know that brand, like I love the lines.
I love this.
Trust me, I have to restrain even me as a professional. I'm like, okay, is this a good proportion where sometimes I buy things to have on hand for clients, but even then I have to think, is this a proportion that works easily? A lot of these super deep chairs that like Restoration Hardware sells them and other companies, I'm going, who has room we work with clients that often their homes are like at least $1 million, and you would think they would have room. Yeah. But the proportions of some of these chairs, how deep they are, you're like, no, they don't have room. We're always looking for like the seat depth, which is the part from like, I know you can't see my hands, but like from the front of the chair or sofa to the back. So from here to there, that's the seat depth. That needs to be deep enough for the people in your house. But the overall depth from the front to the very back, that doesn't have to be that deep. And so, there's some chairs that are like 42 inches deep, and I'm going, who has room for this? And then they put them on a swivel, and you're like, you need 360 degrees in that room. Measuring saves the resources, and you can get more furniture in a space, which often we need. It's often not just the people that live at the house. There's a friend or whoever. So we need at least a few extra seats often, and we need places to store all the ugly stuff and display the pretty stuff. And do it in a way that just looks cohesive and
so awesome. We talked to a friend this week who had gone to an Airbnb that online looked beautiful.
Oh, yes. This is a good story.
She just loved it. And their whole family gathered from all over the U.S. and converged on this Airbnb. I think they were like in California or something. But they came from the East Coast.
Only to find
nowhere to sit.
Not enough seats. Not enough seats.
Get cozy.
There were the beds for the heads, but nowhere to sit and congregate. There were not enough seats for the bums. Right. And or what I've found is a lot of people would rather not buy used items of upholstery. They're like, oh, I just couldn't. Yeah. And you're like, well, go ahead and buy that cheaply made piece, and it'll look great for like 6 months, but it will never be super comfortable. Right. And it's going to look very used anyways. Right. And I personally would rather, because we bought a property for Airbnb this year, and both my sofas, like I got some chairs new, but my sofas, which are a bigger ticket item, I bought them off Facebook Marketplace, and I had that, like I'm going to have them cleaned, but they're comfortable, because when I want people to stay there, I want their... Like, you spend all this money per night. Don't you want your butt to feel good?
I do. That's why I owned 13 couches.
Yes. Yeah. Looking for the right comfort.
I do. We just, for different types of homes. And
you're going to feel the difference in the craftsmanship.
Yeah. So we need and when I have bought used, quite often I've bought leather furniture. Yeah. Just because I just like, It actually works with kids. And
we talk about that in a module coming up, the performance fabrics one, because this course was actually designed for people to be, initially I started it for young kids, like people that had young kids. But what I've realized is that teenagers are still messy. Adults are still messy. We talked a little bit about that last episode. Like we just live a more casual, food friendly lifestyle. And so leather is stronger than fabric and it's much more wipeable than fabric. Yeah. So you were saying you bought this leather.
So I bought that leather stuff, and it is enormous.
Yeah.
It's 10 feet
long.
I don't know how deep it is. It's very deep.
Yeah. And that is a restoration hardware piece, isn't it?
It is, but I bought it used.
Yeah.
Which
I
felt really good about.
I think you should feel good about
it. It was expensive used, but it was really, really what I wanted. Yeah. It was very hard to move. And so that's the piece that my husband's going to always tell me to go back to floorplanner.com, and you make sure that's going to fit.
Will work.
I'm not moving that
before I pick it up. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, it works beautifully in that space. And so I want to kind of help people understand the video sequence, because this is the longest module in the course. And so there are, let me count, 8 videos in this layout module. And the first one is simply just called layout, and talking about, okay, we have our fixed elements like the walls, the fireplace, the things that, we're probably not moving. Windows. Most people are not going, windows, thank you, doorways. Unless you're doing a total kind of layout shift of your downstairs or your upstairs, you're probably not moving these elements. Right. Sometimes people will swap out a window for a bigger window, but still, that's a big change, and it may shift where your furniture needs to go. Right. So we talk about the unfixed elements, where you've got furniture. As an interior designer, we do renovations for sure. We're not just decorating, but the furniture is still just the thing that makes everything feel like it tells you what the purpose of the room is, the furniture. Right. And then the art really is like kind of the final thing that makes it feel like you. But we're not talking about art today, so we're going to stick with layout. And so we talk about learning this floorplanner.com software, or you could use SketchUp, or if you want to pay some money, there are other more sophisticated programs. But SketchUp and Floor Planner both have free options. Right. And so that's what I teach in the course as a way to document your ideas, so that you don't have to buy things and make mistakes, or you don't have to move things and have these errors. And so that's the first video. It's just kind of getting into like, okay, what is layout? How am I going to learn it? And then video 2 is just creating your floor plan. And the floor plan is just like if you were a giant and you took the roof off of a house and you look down, what you'd be looking at is the floor plan. It's like, where are things from front to back and left to right, but we're not yet looking at things in the 3D. We're not looking at the elevations. Right. And it's the simplest first place to start messing with, what goes where. Right. All your spacing. Yeah. And then, I don't know if you remember this, because this is like where it really starts to get annoying for people. They have to think. And do you remember what was so annoying in that module? It has to do with like the needs in the room. You weren't annoyed? Okay.
With how many needs there are?
Yeah. So we talk about like seating requirements. Right. I think that's first. So again, like that Airbnb, what do you have? How many people do we need to sit here? Right. And are they sitting there every day? So we need permanent furniture, or furniture with backs, or do we need like pop up, like they're here once a week, we can do comfortable ottomans or stools for them to sit on.
Pull a chair in front of
them. Yeah, pull up a little chair from another room. Right. Yeah. So that didn't annoy you to figure out all the
No, not really, because
I find it good, but a lot of people
I'm from a really big family, and then I also have 4 kids. Yeah. And so I'm actually always thinking about, I want everyone to be able to get in here to visit and be with each other. So I do think about the seating quite a bit. And so I do still have things I want to resolve in that room with seating, even though I feel like enough seating. Yeah. I still feel like I can do
some extra for visitation. More. Yeah. Well, that's exciting to hear, because I think your layout is overall like coming together really beautifully. And so video 5 is storage requirements. So where are we storing not just the pretty things that are out on display? Because even if it's just on a table like this floral arrangement, that's like something that technically has to be stored. So do we need coasters here or a remote box. And then, of course, we have the ugly things that we don't want to look at, like the board games where someone has torn the cardboard box apart and, the blankets that your Nana, knit
just
you
a
and you're
lot
just
of stuff
I don't,
in your life.
crocheted. Yeah, you're like,
Your
I don't really
kids'
want this.
laptops and all that stuff from school. Their kids come with a lot of stuff.
They do.
So
they
we have
really do.
games and we have arts and crafts.
Yes.
And we have crafts that aren't for arts and crafts, that are mommy's crafts. And we have, what else do I store in there? School supplies, tablecloths. I mean, I have all of these things that I need to have a home for. And not on display. I don't want to see out.
I don't want to see them. And closed storage. I mean, for a while with Pinterest, everyone's talking about Pinterest worthy labeled storage, and you're like, ew, no, because honestly, who wants to sit there and think about where everything? I just want to put it on a shelf. Yes, it can have a designated shelf, but I don't want to find the label and stick it in the exact. No, I just want to shut it away.
Right.
I need my kids, and this is part of the idea of the course is everyone deserves at least one room that is both or all three things: functional, beautiful, and it cleans up in 5 minutes outside of the kitchen. Obviously, things can go very horribly wrong in a kitchen sometimes, and it takes a half hour or more to clean. But in general, these rooms should be tidyable, not necessarily spick and span, no dust, but tidyable in 5 minutes or less.
You open a drawer, you put something in it. I have specific blankets that I want in the room. I know if they're going to be folded over the couch or if they're going to go in a basket.
Yeah.
I can just walk in that room and just
So parents of young kids in particular, if you have kids' toys in your, main public areas where everyone gathers, I would say let yourself off the hook with trying to have the cubbies, and you're never going to teach your kids to pick up that way. This is a hot box for me. I'm or a soapbox for me, a hot topic, hot box, I guess. But yeah. Don't just give them a bin that they can shove it all in. Yeah, beautiful basket. Go to Home Goods or shout out to Takasunu Senegal. I love their baskets, and you're supporting Senegalese women. We order from them a lot. But, something beautiful, you can just shove it all in, put the lid on it. And that is how you teach kids to tidy because it's doable. We don't need everything labeled and on display. It's a pet peeve of mine.
Having 4 kids and my last 2 twins, we had a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And
there's an age too where I feel tell me, because you're ahead of me in your kids are teenagers now, does the stuff get less or does it grow?
It's contained to their room more now.
And then that you just don't go in there.
Yeah, it's not so much in my main living space as it's now in their rooms. Mm-hmm. But when they were smaller, they were all in the main, the main living space. Mm-hmm. I was quite a minimalist with toys, though.
Yeah.
I really would rather my children use their imagination. So I kept and I don't mean everything was tan.
Yeah,
I just mean I just had building blocks and just really basic things and then had them play outside.
Yeah.
So I really didn't ever feel like I had too many toys.
Yeah.
But I always had a system where they just all go together and got put away.
So I love that. I think that is goals for what a lot of people want to do, but sometimes the grandparents cannot be restrained. So I think if you are struggling with too much of anything, whether it's toys or books or whatever, sometimes we like to blame the house, I just need a new house. Because sometimes we have to purge. And even with my, what would be considered full service interior design clients, even they in generally larger homes and high budgets, even they have to purge sometimes.
Right.
Years pass, things change. Sometimes we just accumulate too much, and a lot of it we're often not using.
Right.
And so that is part of this layout process too, is okay, this might be what's in the room, but what do we want to stay in the room? What do we want to really make space for here? Because space is always at a premium. I don't know anyone. Actually, have you seen that one? That house that's over 100,000 square feet in California. Have you seen it? It's out it's out near San Francisco or LA. I can't remember, but
not
it's crazy big. But even though it's the proportions of everything are big, obviously. So when you're walking through it, there's actually not a lot of extra place to just put stuff. Does that make sense? Like, because the proportions are just so big. I actually think I personally would never want to live in a house that big, just because you'd never know if you were home alone. That would be like a secret fear, that I'd be murdered, because the murderer was like, well, I just told someone I was the fourth chef on shift for the day and I'm just coming in. So, but I have to give that developer and the architect credit. And I'm sorry, I don't know their names, but I think they made proportionally the space look really good.
Make it work.
But even with that many square feet, it's just to prove that it doesn't matter how many square feet you have. Sometimes we just have too much stuff, because that was a more minimal house. And it was like, there wasn't a lot of storage space to just like cram in all the stuff. So everyone has to edit. That is my point. And I will reverse or step off my soapbox now, but yeah. We only have a couple of 3 videos left to discuss. So video 6 out of the 8 is developing your floor plan. Did this part annoy you? Because this is where you kind of figure out, all right, I need this many chairs and
this is where I needed a little more of your help. And
and you do get that with the course. You do get a free review of your plan.
Because I'm your friend, like I have a little bit of access to you, but
that was actually not special. Everyone you are special, but that was not special to her. Everyone that signs up gets a free review of their plan at this point. And that's when I can say, this is what you might want to consider, or it looks like you've addressed this, but not this. So what are we going to do?
That's what I appreciated the most, because that's where
you kind of get
intuition stops, and I'm like, now I need a professional, because I'm just this.
Was it second guessing yourself, or what? Because honestly, we kind of went exactly with what you said. I think the only thing different was that we put the console behind the.
No, I wouldn't have thought of the secretary.
Oh, okay. So she had a chair, and there's some, we'll show you right now a before of Rebecca's living room, how they had kind of like dumped the furniture in there, how it had to be when they were moving in, because they had 3 sofas. They had to figure out, okay, get this stuff out of the way so we can get all the moving boxes in. And so we'll show you a before, and then here's the after that we landed on after the review that I gave Rebecca. And so you can see, where that secretary is in the bottom left-hand corner of this image, there had been a chair, an extra chair there. And I don't remember, why did you want to get rid of the chair? Because it did technically fit, but I think you needed, it needed more storage? Oh, you just
it was ugly. Okay. And I felt like it was
kind of removed from the main seating.
It didn't feel like a reading chair or a reading nook. It just felt like
in a main traffic way.
What's going on back there?
Okay. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, it just didn't feel
right.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Yeah, sometimes a chair or a seating group removed from the main seating group can be really nice and cozy.
Right, you feel like you're in a little reading nook.
Where this one had so much traffic going past it, she's right. It really wasn't. It wasn't giving off that vibe. So
it was brown.
And it was brown.
So much brown. Yeah. I'm not opposed to brown. Obviously, I like it because I own a lot of it. But too much.
Too much in one room.
Because I'm in a rental, I can't change that chair railing and down is that paneling. I can't change that. So
okay, and we'll get you pictures in future episodes of the progress and the before. But what she's saying is she's got like drywall and then chair rail molding, and then she's got wood paneling below it. She's also got, which is brown, and then she's got brown brick, and then a big brown Restoration Hardware leather sofa. Right, and so she's like, okay, I'm colorful. Yeah. I need to balance in all things, right? Or moderation in all things.
So that layout, there were a lot of things that we talked about that surprised me that I really wouldn't have thought about.
Yeah.
And so I still have to implement a lot of them. It's just, we talk about it. Yeah. And that's faster. Yeah. The process of talking about it is a lot faster than the process of doing it.
Yeah.
I still have a lot to do, but
if you're currently taking the course, don't forget to, it's lifetime access, but don't forget to email me and get that free review, because
that's huge. I love that.
Yeah. Video 7 is the layout or the spacing guideline. So generally we want this much space, in a pathway or next to, and that's what helps you stop second guessing. And so that was part of our review, is that I was like, well, yeah, this totally works here because you have enough space. It's only the depth of the sofa where you're compressed for a second, but it's to get out these doors that she doesn't use very often.
But also that's what made the initial, and it wasn't even my initial layout. That really was where furniture landed.
Yeah.
But as I sat in that room trying to figure out, I didn't know how to get it together.
Yeah.
But I sat in that room, that spacing was really off. And so that's what made it feel so uncomfortable, is I needed to figure out
didn't we end up shoving the sofa a little bit closer to the wall, and it bought you some inches?
Yeah.
There was like a few little tweaks, and it was
Just
like
small.
those inches matter sometimes.
It really does.
So almost always. So okay, last video in this module 1 on layout was called Your Room in 3D. And that's where I show you how to utilize the software we've looked at it in plan, all the spacing left to right, front to back works. Our functions are met with storage and seating and whatever else needs to happen in this room. Now we need to look at it as if we were in the room, whether it's in 3D where you're seeing both sides of one thing, or two sides of one thing, or if it's just in flat elevation where you're just looking at one wall at a time. You really can't finish the room without considering, okay, I've laid out my furniture, but what about my art? What do I have on the walls that when I'm looking at it, it's not just blank? Or sometimes if we don't have room for furniture, art is a great thing to put in a corner because it only comes off the wall a little bit, but yet it creates such a visual, visually it fills the space. And so we talk about that. Like, you can physically fill the space, but you can also visually fill the space. Yeah. And I know technically art is physical, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
I could do a whole podcast on hanging art.
Maybe we will. Yeah.
And just the layout of art, because
love that.
People always ask me, or they comment about my decor, and it just is very natural for me to be able to hang all the art that I want.
Yeah.
But I pack more in than most people.
Yeah.
I mean, I have more in one room than most people have in their whole house.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we talk about some of the spacing things that you naturally do. We talk about it in the module that's called, I think it's the kid-proof tips or strategies module. Where it's, it's decor tips. I can't remember the name of it. It's like module 4 or 3. Okay. But either way. Yeah, you naturally have a gift there. Finding good art, hanging art. Yeah. And wouldn't you agree that really is the thing that finishes?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't really have a lot hung right now, and so I need to sit in the space for a while to see where I feel gaps in the room, and those gaps I kind of fill with art.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love that. Well, there's so much more left to come in the course and in the podcast, but I really appreciate you going through this course and sharing your experience, because we've had a lot of people go through it, but I've obviously never done a podcast before. Yeah. So having someone be able to share it in this depth, I think hopefully will help people recognize, you don't have to hire an interior designer, but you can absolutely learn the skills that a designer uses. You can tap into that, and it could be a hidden superpower for you. There's nothing that I was born with that makes me a great designer. It's my studying of the strategies and the rules, so I know when to break the rules and when to stay within the rules. And so that's what this course is all about. And so I hope that y'all are gaining some of that knowledge for yourselves by listening and watching this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors, Verve Home Furnishings and Tech Painting Co. We will be back next week with another episode of Take Back Your Home. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Bye.